Stunfisk has been added to Pokemon Go. Finally, after all these years, everyone's favorite Pokemon, Stunfisk, has been added to the game. So why is Stunfisk coming out now? Well, it appears that we are having an April Fool's Day event in Pokemon Go. So we have increased spawns of Fungus and Voltorb. They're like Pokeballs. Ooh, surprised ya, gotcha. Increased spawns of Ditto. Oh, fooled ya, it's a Ditto. We're also getting Ambipom and Krogunk Photobombs. I'll take them. And yeah, Stunfisk. Stunfisk, being the tricky little fish it is also added to the game. This has people wondering, just how good is this Stunfisk? It seems like PvP players are pretty hyped up. What's going on? I'm going to get out of the way, let you know right now, Stunfisk, when it comes to raiding, is not a vibe. But when it comes to PvP, especially Great League PvP, actually exclusively Great League PvP, Stunfisk is kind of a vibe. In this video, I'm going to be going over the details of Stunfisk in Great League PvP, and then once I get all that out of the way, I'll let you Silphers know about the Toxic Cup and the Voyager Cup and the Stunfisk. So let's get into it. So starting on out, Stunfisk here is a ground electric type Pokemon, and it's got some spammy attacks. It's got Mud Shot and Thunder Shock, which are high energy gaining attacks, and it's got Mud Bomb, Discharge, and Muddy Water, which are spammy type of attacks. So in a sense, because it's got the Mud Shot, Mud Bomb combo going on, and it's a ground type Pokemon, it's most comparable to the Mud Boys, the other Mud Shot using Pokemon. All the Mud Boys up until this point, sans maybe Flygon, I guess, have been a ground water type Pokemon. Stunfisk is ground electric. Comparing Stunfisk to Wishcash, the other Mud Bomb spammer, it seems like Stunfisk does have better bulk. However, when you consider their defensive typing, I think the other Mud Boys are definitely more on the tanky side. The ground typing opens up vulnerabilities to water, grass, and ice type attacks. When it comes to electric, electric does nothing to help against those types of damage. When it comes to water, water is able to patch up the water and ice type weaknesses. This does of course come at the detriment of a doubled up weakness to grass type attacks, but because Stunfisk here doesn't have any way to retaliate against grass type Pokemon, is it really that big of a deal to be doubly weak to grass when it comes to Wishcash and the other Mud Boys? In fact, they also have ways to retaliate against grass type Pokemon given the right set of circumstances. Wishcash has Blizzard, Swampert, and Quagsire, they have Earthquake. Quagsire has Stone Edge and Sludge Bomb. Swampert has Sludge Wave. So they have ways to fight back against the grass type Pokemon in big ways. Stunfisk, unfortunately, does not have that going on. As a result, unlike other Mud Boy Pokemon, Stunfisk is actually weak to water and ice type attacks. And the electric typing here gives it a weakness to ground type attacks as well, which isn't very good when it comes to like a Stunfisk versus other Mud Boy showdown. So all in all, on paper, I'd have to say Stunfisk is looking a little bit weaker than the other Mud Boys. But we got PvPoke here. We can directly compare them. So here I have both fast moves on Stunfisk in comparison to Wishcash, Swampert, Quagsire, and Seismitoad against the list of powerful Great League Pokemon. These Pokemon are Registeel, Azumarill, Skarmory, Hypno, Umbreon, and Frostlass. So Registeel and Azumarill are the basic Regi-Azu combo here. Then we also have Skarmory here. Skarmory is Stunfisk's main claim to fame, so it's important to compare that to the other Mud Boys. And then I just threw in Hypno, Umbreon, and Frostlass because they are good general Psychic, Dark, and Ghost type Pokemon to compare things to. Like I could use Haunter here, but all the Mud Boys basically beat down on Haunter, so I don't think that'd be very fair. So when it comes to the Zero Shield situation, you can see here that all of them are beating down on Registeel according to plan. I mean, they're ground type Pokemon. We'd hope that they would win these matchups. But compared to the others, Stunfisk is not beating down the Azumarill. So even though it does have that electric subtyping and that electric type coverage, even with Thunder Shock, it's not able to beat down the Azumarill. A large part of this is because those Bubble Beams and those Ice Beams are super effective to Stunfisk. This is a Play Rough Ice Beam Azumarill, not a Hydro Pump one. Hydro Pump would also be beating Stunfisk here. But because these attacks are super effective, where against the others it's neutrally effective, Azumarill is beating down the Stunfisk. And then just for reference here, the Swampert and the Quagsire do not have poison type attacks. So this is with their ground and rock type damage that they are able to beat down the Azumarill. So Stunfisk is lacking in this respect. However, it does have some nice pickup game here against the Skarmory, being able to beat it with no shields, no problem. Bringing it on up to the one shield situation, we can see that Stunfisk and the others are all also beating Registeel according to plan, but Stunfisk, even with the double electric type set, is failing against the Ice Beam Azumarill, which isn't a very good look. Quagsire over here with the Stone Edge and Earthquake still beating the Azumarill. Stunfisk, not that cool. When it comes to Skarmory, Stunfisk is the main Skarmory beater. I mean, look at that difference there. Oh yeah, for those of you that aren't familiar with PvPoke, 500 is a tie. Anything above 500 is a win. Anything below 500 is a loss. The further away you are from 500, the bigger of a deal it is. So it having 782 on Skarmory here, that's a huge deal. Wishcash here does have a 538, and that is with the Blizzard bait. You have to land the Blizzard to get that with Wishcash. That's not all that impressive. This, pretty dang impressive. When it comes to Hypno, everybody's losing here. But Wishcash and the other more spammy ones are having a pretty good time since they are spamming charge moves against that heavy confusion damage. And then when it comes to Umbreon, Stunfisk isn't winning like Quagsire is, but it is having a pretty good fight. In fact, a better fight than most of the other Mud Boys here. Then in the 2-shield situation, Stunfisk's presumed advantage finally shows through. It can beat down the Azumarill and the Registeel. The other guys, they can't really do that. Seismitoad can. But Seismitoad doesn't really have anything else going for it after that. Stunfisk here, though, still has that big Skarmory matchup, and still does big damage against the Umbreon before going down. Then for a final comparison, we have the 1 to 2 shield situation. So your Pokemon only using 1 shield to dominate your opponent who may be using 2 shields. Basically shows just how good a Pokemon can be in particular matchups. And Stunfisk here is the only Mudboy to fail the Registeel matchup under these circumstances. So if you bring in a Stunfisk, that's your Registeel counter, expect to use 2 shields in order to eke out that win. If you were to be using other Mudboys, for comparison, they would only have to spend 1 shield to bully down the Registeel, which does have some pretty big implications for an endgame scenario. If that Registeel is up some energy and then you finally bring out your Mudboy Pokemon to try to bully it down in the end, Stunfisk could fail you. These guys very likely won't be failing you. On the other hand, though, Stunfisk is doing pretty crazy good against Skarmory. Like, none of the other Mudboys are even nearly this close as good against the Skarmory. In fact, I'm pretty sure it beats it in the 0-2 as well. Yeah, 0-2 shield situation. If a Skarmory gets locked in against a Stunfisk, it's done. Skarmory is done. In a way, this kind of makes Stunfisk look more like an electric-type Pokemon than a ground-type Pokemon. How does Stunfisk compare to other electrics? Well, I got that up right here. So here I got both Stunfisks compared to 2 Alolan Raichus. One has Grass Knot, the other has Psychic, and then both Lanturns, Spark and Water Gun. Swagman here loves the Water Gun, but I know a lot of you guys out there love the Spark. And then Galvantula. I'm not too fond of Galvantula, but I'll include it. Then for the opponents, we have Registeel and Azumarill, once again, the bread and butter. Umbreon being the thick, neutral Pokemon of the world. Haunter is a bit more relevant here because most electric types can't really tolerate Haunter. We brought in the Alolan Marowak because that guy is also pretty relevant as well, and then also has the Bone Club attack, which a lot of electric types do not appreciate. And then we got Venusaur, Victory Bell, 2 different flavors of grass type to wail on things, and then the Heavy Steel Bastiodon. And just taking a glance here at this 0 shield situation, you can see that Stunfisk is bringing a lot of variety to the table. For example, Haunter, a poison type spammy Pokemon, might be a bit too spammy for these other electric type Pokemon to handle. Stunfisk has the Mud Bomb. Haunter does not want to deal with the Mud Bomb. Same with Alolan Marowak. Alolan Marowak can threaten with the Bone Club, threatens everything here with the Bone Club, except for Galvantula, but Galvantula doesn't really have a hit against it. But the Mud Bomb spam though. Alolan Marowak does not appreciate that. And then finally, when it comes to the Bastiodon, the tankiest Pokemon in the entire game, if I recall correctly, I'm pretty sure in the Great League it is the most tanky. Yeah, who's wailing on it but Stunfisk with that double super effective ground type damage. Lantern comes close though. Very solid, bulky water type Pokemon with water type attacks. Bastiodon does not like that. Then in the 1 shield situation, you can see not a lot has changed in terms of this variety. I mean, all the electric type Pokemon for the most part are now picking up the Registeel matchup. You'll see Spark Lantern isn't. Water Gun Lantern is. But yeah, they're picking up the Registeel matchup now, so they are getting the Regiazu matchup down. Something that Stunfisk is not doing. So Stunfisk, Regiazu Breaker Upper. I think we got other Pokemon for that. However, we do still have that variety hour going on where Stunfisk is able to handle Haunter and Alolan Marowak and Bastiodon quite well, where the other electric type Pokemon really aren't doing those matchups as hot. The closest comparison we have is Lantern, but Lantern's only getting like 520, 540 against Bastiodon. That's not nearly as impressive as the 800s to nearly 900s are against Bastiodon. That's like Omega God swag domination. Lantern's just getting by here. Then when it comes to the 2-shield situation, the differences that we saw in the 1-shield are basically the same, maybe a little bit more accentuated. Stunfisk is finally able to join the ranks of Registeel counters here, which is pretty nice, and it still beats down on the Haunter and Alolan Marowak and Bastiodon better than everything else featured. Once again, the closest comparison is Lantern. Then when we get to the 1-2 shield situation, we can see that Alolan Raichu is much more consistent against the Registeel, and then Lantern here with the Spark is more consistent against the Azumarill. But when it comes to Alolan Marowak and Bastiodon, who's carrying the torch but Stunfisk? So that's pretty dang hot. When it comes to the 0 shield, Bastiodon, man, Bastiodon really doesn't want to run into Stunfisk, that's for sure. So what's the Grand Council's opinion on Stunfisk? Stunfisk is pretty dang good for the Open Great League. It has a huge massive advantage over Skarmory and Bastiodon, which many other Pokemon can't even begin to match. Unfortunately for Stunfisk though, Bastiodon and Skarmory aren't nearly as popular as Registeel and Azumarill are. And when it comes to dealing with Regiazu, I'd probably consider other ground type or electric type Pokemon before I would consider Stunfisk. Then on top of that, the high prevalence of Mudboys and grass type Pokemon in the Open Great League definitely considers that more often than not, your Stunfisk is going to run into issues that the other Pokemon could probably deal with. So Bastiodon and Skarmory, they are out there, but the other guys, they deal with them well enough. Stunfisk might be a little bit of a liability. And with that out of the way, let's get into that Silph stuff now. Toxic Cup. I could pull up a Toxic Cup simplified graphic for you guys, but I think we all know by this point, 3 types of Pokemon dominate the Toxic Cup. And those are Poison types, which are weak to ground, Flying types, which for the most part are weak to electric, and Water types, which are definitely weak to electric. These 3 factors combined definitely put our Stunfisk friend here at the top of the food chain. So much so that I feel like it kind of alters the meta in a massive way, giving a really huge emphasis to grass-type Pokemon. Grass-type Pokemon were already good as sort of like interesting anti-meta picks. We've seen a lot of really good plays from Meganium, Shiftry, and even the Shadow Executor, but they were kind of like the niche side Pokemon, not like the main enchilada here. Well, with Stunfisk now taking over the school, I think they might move a little bit more to the main enchilada side of the force here. So if you still have Toxic Cups to do in the near future, maybe you haven't even done your weighted one yet because you got a whole month to do your weighted one now, Stunfisk might be it. Then when it comes to Voyager Cup, I'm going to bring up the graphic for this one. Here we have Lorman96 from the Game Press Cruise graphic on the Voyager Cup meta here. Basically, you have to... I'm not going to explain Voyager Cup right now. You should already know what it is if you're watching this video. If you don't, check it out on silph.gg. At any rate, you have to pick different generational Pokemon, and there's the different roles that we have spelled out for it to try to make that make more sense for you. What's Stunfisk got going on? Well, Stunfisk is a non-restricted pick, which means it could be your second flex Gen 5 and beyond type Pokemon. Another thing that Stunfisk has going on for it is that it's a Mudboy that doesn't share with Registeel or Azumarill. A lot of people in the Voyager Cup are going to be picking these 2 Pokemon, which will limit your ability to use these Mudboys or the Quagsire here. So if you want to do a Mudboy type strategy and use Azumarill and use the Registeel, well, now you're looking at Seismitoad and the Stunfisk. And I'd have to say, all things considered, Stunfisk has a lot more going on for it than the Seismitoad does. And then as far as being a flex pick goes, Lantern is like highly comparable to the Stunfisk, but Lantern here does share with the Azumarill, so you'd have to for sure burn your flex pick spot on the Lantern. But when it comes to Stunfisk here, maybe Alolan Marowak doesn't really appeal to you. Stunfisk could be the, tried, tested, and true only Gen 5 and beyond Pokemon, and then you can use your flex pick for any of the other generations. So I think Stunfisk has a lot of good stuff going on for it there. That said, I feel like the meta itself is going to be a little bit unfavorable for the Stunfisk here, namely because of the restrictions. For example, Skarmory here is a restricted Gen 2 slot Pokemon. If people are picking the Azumarill over the Skarmory, which is very likely, well then, there's no Skarmory for you to dominate. Similarly, we also have Registeel. Registeel might not share the same generation with Bastiodon or Probopass, but they are both Steel-type Pokemon. And if you already have one Steel-type Pokemon in your crew, do you really want to, double up on your weaknesses by bringing these two guys in? I can't really see it happening that often here. So people using Regiazu definitely spells problems for the Stunfisk here. So because of the popularity of the Regiazu core and the limitations of the Voyager Cup, I feel like the Omega targets for Stunfisk are kind of taken out of the picture. They'll still be out there. You'll still run into Bastiodons and Skarmorys in the Voyager Cup, but the prevalence is going to be a lot lower. And with those two out of the picture, I don't really see Stunfisk being a big addition to your team. I could see it being a little bit more of a liability. That said, it is a non-restricted Mudboy Pokemon in the Gen 5 and beyond slots, so I can definitely see Stunfisk here getting tons of play in the Voyager Cup. Not an ace in the whole pick, but definitely a solid pick for sure. And that's my complete and total thoughts on the Stunfisk here. When it comes to the Open Great League, it's definitely a solid Pokemon, but I do like other electric types in Mudboys better than it. Then when it comes to the Silph Arena, I don't even have to sell Stunfisk for you guys. I mean, it's a solid stat Pokemon with a unique typing, nothing else is electric ground, and it's got good moves for the most part, so it's going to come up in Silph Cups. It's already coming up in Silph Cups, and going forward, it's going to probably come up in Silph Cups. If you got any questions on this content, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. If you enjoyed this content and you want to see more like it, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. And for you Voyagers out there waiting for Voyager Cup content, I hope to have it up before this week is done, so stay tuned. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you'd like to support the Swag Man, check out Patreon.